The rain came down hard that night, the kind of storm that feels like the sky itself is crying. Mark stood outside the coffee shop, drenched, clutching a bouquet that had already given up its fight against the wind. His heart felt heavier than the clouds above him. He had waited 2 hours for someone who wasn't coming. The message on his phone was short, sharp, and final. "I'm sorry, Mark. You're just not my type." And that was how it ended, the last piece of his fragile hope washed away with the rain. Backhand index pointing right. If you believe in kindness, forgiveness, and second chances, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness. Let's spread stories that remind hearts to believe again. Mark wasn't the kind of man women noticed at first glance. He wasn't rich, didn't have a fancy car, or a picture-perfect life. He was a 32-year-old mechanic from Ohio, with grease on his hands, a heart too soft for his own good, and dreams that had been buried under years of quiet disappointments. His life revolved around fixing broken things, engines, tools, and sometimes, people who came into his shop with stories heavier than their bills. But that night, he couldn't fix his own heart. He had met Emily 6 months ago, a woman whose smile could light up the grayest morning. She worked as a marketing executive in the same neighborhood, always dressed in smart suits and confidence. Their worlds couldn't have been more different. She lived in high-rise buildings and spoke in boardroom tones, while he lived in a small rented apartment above his workshop, surrounded by the scent of oil and metal. But somehow, kindness had bridged that gap. She had come to his shop one morning with her broken car and a stressed-out look. He had offered her coffee while fixing her engine, refusing to charge her when she said she couldn't be late for a meeting. That small act of decency had started something unexpected. Over the weeks that followed, Emily would stop by his garage with small excuses, an oil check, a strange noise, a broken headlight. They would talk, about everything and nothing. She told him about her job, her boss who never noticed her work, her dreams of traveling to places she couldn't pronounce. Mark told her about his mom, who raised him alone after his dad walked out, and about how he dreamed of one day opening a bigger shop, a real place he could call his own. But while Mark saw something growing between them, something rare and pure, Emily only saw kindness. She liked him, yes. But not in that way. "You're different," she once told him with a soft smile. "You make life feel safe." Mark didn't know then that safe wasn't always what people wanted. Some hearts chase danger before realizing what peace feels like. When he finally confessed his feelings one evening, under the warm glow of the shop lights, she hesitated. "Mark," she said gently, "you're not my type." It wasn't cruel, but it was final. She thanked him for everything, hugged him, and walked away. That night, he stayed up fixing a car that didn't need fixing, just to stop himself from feeling. Weeks passed. The world kept spinning, but Mark stayed still. The smell of gasoline and rust filled the silence of his days. He tried to move on, but every time he saw a blue car like hers drive by, his chest ached. Life had taught him how to repair everything, except a broken heart. Then one late afternoon, as he was closing up, he heard tires screech outside. A car pulled up, smoke curling from under its hood. And there she was, Emily, stepping out in tears, her perfect world visibly cracked. "Mark," she whispered, "I didn't know where else to go." Her eyes were red, her voice trembling. She told him she'd just caught her boyfriend cheating. The man she thought she wanted, the man who was her type. Suddenly, she had no one. No place to go. Mark didn't say a word. He just opened the shop door wider, guided her inside, and handed her a towel. No questions. No judgment. Just kindness. For the next few hours, she sat in his office as he worked quietly on her car. The silence between them wasn't awkward, it was healing. When she finally spoke, her voice broke. "I was wrong about you," she said. "You were always the one who saw me." Mark just smiled, though inside, his heart trembled between pain and compassion. He wanted to be angry, but seeing her hurt, he couldn't be. That night, he drove her home because she was too shaken to drive. Before leaving, she looked at him as if seeing him for the first time. "Thank you," she whispered. "For still being here." He nodded, but he knew, some people come back too late. Months went by. They drifted again, but something had changed. Emily began visiting more often, not with car troubles this time, but with small gestures, homemade lunch, coffee, or just to say hi. Slowly, the walls she had built around her heart began to crumble. She started noticing things she'd missed before, how Mark always put others before himself, how he smiled even when he was tired, how he never spoke about love but lived it in small, quiet ways. One afternoon, she found him in the garage helping an old man who couldn't afford his repair bill. Mark refused to take a dime. "Pay me when you can," he said softly. Emily watched from the doorway, tears blurring her eyes. That was the moment she realized, love doesn't need to impress. It needs to understand. Still, fate wasn't done testing them. A month later, Mark's mother fell ill. He began spending nights at the hospital, trying to juggle his work and her treatments. Bills piled up, and the dream of expanding his shop faded into dust. He didn't tell anyone, not even Emily. He didn't want pity. But one night, Emily showed up at the hospital. Somehow, she'd found out. She sat beside him quietly and held his hand. For the first time, he didn't push her away. In that cold hospital corridor, under the hum of fluorescent lights, she looked at him and said, "You once fixed my car when I was running late for a meeting. Now, let me help you fix your life." She meant it, and she proved it. She helped him organize fundraisers, spread the word in her company, even convinced a few contacts to donate toward his mother's care. It wasn't about money, it was about showing up. During those months, something deeper bloomed. It wasn't the spark of infatuation that fades like a matchstick flame, it was a steady, glowing warmth, built from gratitude, respect, and shared pain. They became each other's calm in a storm. One evening, as the sun set over the city skyline, Emily stood outside Mark's workshop, holding a box. Inside was a small plaque that read, "Harrison and Company. Auto repair, where broken things find a way back." It was her idea, her way of telling him she believed in his dream. Mark's hands trembled as he took it. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to cry, not from sadness, but from being seen. Emily looked at him, her eyes soft with something unspoken. "I was wrong," she whispered. "You're not my type, you're my heart." That was the moment fate smiled, the moment every broken piece finally fit. Years later, that same garage became more than a business. It became a place where stories like theirs were born, where kindness fixed what life had broken. Emily and Mark ran it together, their laughter echoing through the walls that once held his loneliness. People came from miles away, not just for repairs, but for hope. Because somehow, everyone could feel that this wasn't just a workshop, it was a reminder that love doesn't always arrive in the form we expect. Sometimes, it shows up in grease-stained hands and patient eyes. And on their wedding day, standing under an arch made of wildflowers outside the shop, Emily held his hand and said the words that once broke him, only this time, they healed him. "You're not my type, Mark. You're my miracle." Backhand index pointing right. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to Kindness. Let's remind the world that love finds its way back, always. Red Heart special request, comment below, kindness changes everything. Let's see how many hearts still believe in second chances. As the sun dipped behind the old workshop and laughter filled the air, Mark looked at Emily and thought about that rainy night years ago, when she said he wasn't her type. He smiled, holding her closer, knowing that sometimes, fate doesn't follow preferences, it follows purpose. And when two hearts are meant to find each other, even 1,000 wrong turns can't stop them. Because love, the real kind, doesn't ask if you're someone's type. It simply stays, rebuilds, and never lets go.